Hello, my name is Ginger-Ketting Weller, and I'm the president of the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies in the Philippines. I am here with Gabriel Darrichon, and this is a program where you get to know the people of AIIAS, where you learn about the testimonies, where you learn about what is happening in their lives that's inspiring. We have so many interesting people on the AIIAS campus, and so we look forward to sharing with you today. Gabi, tell us about where you're from and what program you're in.
Well, I'm from Argentina in South America, and I'm in Master of Divinity program in the seminary.
Very good. I know from the history that you've told me that you were in the communications field, and something happened that completely changed the trajectory of your life. You made some huge decisions. So tell us about this.
Well, yes, it's a big change to move with your family to the other side of the world.
Yes.
It's interesting when you check Google, it says it's 18,020 kilometers from home. So when you see the map, it seems like the other side of the world. And well, I think the story begins with the influence of my family. My father was a communicator. My grandfather was a communicator. So I was third generation of communicators in the family. And my father worked for a long time for the Argentinian government in the area of communication. But when I was 9, the church invited him to be the director of communication in the conference in Buenos Aires, where is the capital of our country. That was kind of new because he was a lay member with not preparation in theology. He was working for the state, but the church invited him and, well, invited us because usually the calling is for the whole family.
Yes.
And my parents said yes. And then my father in the summers started to study theology to complement his preparation. And 7 years later, he was ordained a pastor. So my father was a pastor and a communicator too. When I finished high school, I knew since I was 8, before my father started working for the church, that I wanted to be a communicator. I want to do what my father did. So I never had this kind of vocational crisis or something like that. I was very sure about what I wanted to do. So when I finished high school, I started communication, but at the same time, I realized that I could take the chance to take some classes in the seminary. In our university in Argentina, usually the seminary classes are in the morning, and the most part of the classes in communication were in the afternoon. And I had the enormous blessing of having the help from the church for my studies, so I didn't have to work. I had many friends who work and study at the same time, but it was not my situation. So I said, okay, I will take some classes in theology like a hobby, something that I would like to do, but I never thought about finishing theology, the bachelor in theology. I just thought to do it because it could be nice.
Yeah.
So during my 4 years in bachelor in communication, I took some classes. Finally, I finished communication and I started my ministry there. I went to Mexico when I finished. I worked in Montemorelos University there for 1 year. And I go back to Argentina. And I discovered, since I was a child, this is another part, that I like to preach. I was 10 years old when I started preaching with other children and with a choir in our school and everything. So I think this preaching thing and being involved with the church is something that happened since I was a child. But I never thought about being a pastor because my decision for communication was always very strong.
Interesting. So you had this pull toward things of pastoring without actually thinking about the career.
Yes, and I think I always said, I don't picture myself as a church pastor. I love preaching. Eventually I discovered I love to be with people in the church. God gave me the opportunity to visit several churches in my country and in other countries where I had the chance to live, to preach or sometimes to present a seminar in communication or those kind of things. And I love the interaction with people in the church. But I always thought that this part of the administrative work of the church, or I don't know, I have been in the board church several times in different churches, and sometimes I feel like pastors are to focus in administrative things that sometimes they don't even enjoy. They said, I like the other parts of the church. I like the people. I like sharing God's word. But so I never considered seriously to be a pastor, I think because of that. But it's interesting, it's curious. I always said, I think half of the town where I was living thought that I was a pastor.
Oh.
I don't know, it was because of the preaching. I received invitations to preach very often, or it was because of, I don't know, I always try to live my experience in a very natural way. It's not hard for me in any conversation, or even in my class when I was teaching communication, to talk about God or the Bible or whatever. And I think that sadly, many times we associate that with pastors, when actually that's Christian. If we are truly Christian, Jesus will come out naturally. But when we see people talking about Jesus too often, or the Bible, or quoting the Bible, oh, he must be a pastor. So, I don't know, maybe because of these things, many people thought I was a pastor. I said, no. When the topic came up, it was, no, I'm not a pastor. Really? Yes, I'm not a pastor. But I had some people talking to me, and I had this calling in some way, but I think for many years I decided to ignore it. I felt comfortable in my ministry in communication, and well, I dedicated several years to work on that. Until some experience, and I think the decisive experience was at the beginning of May in 2018. 1 year ago, I was invited to conduct my first week of prayer in a school in another state in our country. It was from the little kids, 5 years old, until the teenager of 17. We had like 7 or 8 preachings during the day, every day. It was exhausting, but it was amazing. And on May next year, I received an invitation from another school. They also invited me to conduct another week of prayer. I had to travel there on Sunday. The week of prayer was going to begin on Monday. And that Sunday morning, we were having some training program with some brethren in the region, and a very good friend who is the director of communication in our union. We were talking together, and he said, Gabby, you know what? You have to do something about theology. You have to finish, or I don't know, something you have to do. But I know you are passionate about communication, and I know that you are passionate about sharing Jesus through mass media. But you know, I think that it's going to be really good for you, for your preparation, and it's going to be also good for the church to acknowledge your calling if you could do something about theology. We had that conversation, and that afternoon I left to the other state for the week of prayer. And that week of prayer was an amazing experience. And the most part of the students, especially high school students, were non-Adventist. And we had several decisions for Jesus in that week of prayer. And I said, oh, this is amazing. It was like, oh, I love this. And I realized that after so many people, professors, friends, church leaders talking to me about this, I said, well, I have to stop ignoring this calling. So because I was working in the university gave to all their employees the possibility of taking one class by free. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of busy. I had 100% time in my work in the office. I was associate for the communication department, associate director for the communication department. And I have also 20-something% of working in teaching classes. So I was kind of overloaded that time. I said, but I think I have to do this. So that semester, beginning on August 2018, I decided to take 2 classes in the seminary. So I went back to the classroom as a student after several years. And well, I felt good. Okay, I'm following what God wants me to do. But something happened in September that year. And we come to AIIAS now. One AIIAS student from Argentina emailed my boss telling him there is a new scholarship in AIIAS. This is the Master Award Scholarship.
Yes.
And he shared it with my boss. And my boss, after receiving the email, came to the secretary's office. And I was there talking to the secretary and to two employees, very young employees, new employees, who were finishing their bachelor in accounting and in administration. And he said, "Oh, you two, that you are young and you're almost done with your program. I received this information." And he shared the news, not to me, but to the employees who were working with us. So I heard and I said, okay, I want to explore that. And I discovered in AIIAS website the MDiv program. And I saw that all the classes, more than 20 I had taken in the seminary, could help me to study the MDiv and to have the pastoral preparation I wanted to have, that I was feeling that was my calling, and without a complete bachelor in theology. So I thought, okay, I'm going to explore this option. And it was a very long shot. It was like, I don't see this is going to happen. But I went back home. I talked to Maru, to my wife, about it. And she said, okay, let's pray about it. And we start praying.
Interesting. You know, I see a trend in what you've described of so many young people think, how is it that God calls? And you've described circumstance, and you've described kind of a pulling on your heart and a discovery of your talents, but also at some point God started sending people to show you the way. And we don't recognize also how many times we speak up and show other people the way. So it sounds like you had God calling you in several different ways. And coming this way, what an astonishing idea to leave Argentina and go to the Philippines to school.
Well, it was a big challenge, and I am a very organized person who likes to have everything planned.
Yeah.
So I always put my conditions. Okay, if this comes from you, if you want this idea, you will have to do this and this and this and that. And one of the things for me was, okay, we didn't have savings. In that time, we already have our two daughters.
Yeah.
Abigail now is 5, and Alitza is 3. So when all this story began, they were it was Abby's birthday, so they were 4 and 2, but just the birthday was very recent. So very little girls, I said, you know, God, I'm not going to go anywhere unless you prepare and settle everything. You have to settle everything, and I have to be sure that we will be okay because I have a family now.
Yes.
So the conditions were the scholarship. And I said, it's not going to be easy to receive a scholarship because I'm not even a pastor, and I'm applying for the seminary. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be hard. You will have to send some sponsorship, somebody to help us, because we decided, since we were dating with Maru, that when we have children, she was going to stay at home. Mm-hmm. And the economic situation in Argentina is never good. It's always complicated. It's not a period or a crisis. It's always the same. So with my salary, we just live at a day. We didn't have the chance to have savings or those kind of things. Yeah. So I said, we are going to need some help. I also said they will have to accept me, and they will have to tell me that what I have done in the seminary before, it's okay for the prerequisites. Mm-hmm. And I want, in some way, some certainty that when we finish, you will provide a job for us. So there were several conditions. And God is always amazing, and He has this gentle way to help us to grow in our faith.
Yes.
And this gentle way is usually a mix between, this is what I want you to do. I understand better than you how you are, so I'm going to give you what you need, but not exactly what you want. Because if I give you everything you want, you are not going to grow in your faith. So, to summarize, God gave us a donor who helped us with the tickets and a little bit more. God gave us the scholarship. I was very excited when I received the response from AIIAS saying, Gabby, you have the scholarship. Our university and our union, they couldn't support us financially, but they said, when you finish, if you want to go back to Argentina, we will give you a job so you can go and don't worry about the future because you are not going to finish and to be an employee. We will give you a job. We want you back if you want to come back. I don't have to, but I have that security in some way. But God didn't send us all the money we needed to come here. So with the selling of our car, the few furnitures and things and clothing and everything that we had, that it was not much, we came here and we thought that we had money for around the first 6 months. And so it was definitely an adventure of faith with 2 little girls. But we came here, and first, God made the money to endure a little bit more. He sent us some students to learn Spanish, so we could teach Spanish and to get a little bit more money. And finally, the money was enough for the first 11 months. And one of these godly families that we knew there, when we said goodbye, they gave us an envelope, and they said, when you are run out of money, open this envelope. So we reached that point. We opened the envelope. We have for around 1 more month. And I think 2 days after we opened that envelope, some person approached us and told us, with my wife, we have been praying, and we both separate had the same feeling. And when we talk about that, we discovered that God is impressing us to help you with your studies.
Wow.
And well, of course, I was moved. I was, yes, my eyes full of tears, and it was, wow, God is amazing. God is amazing. So we are living literally from what God is sending us. We put everything we had. So everything we have in this world fitted into 4 suitcases. That is what we brought here, and it's in the apartment here at AIIAS. We have nothing else. Our bank account is just dry and nothing, but God literally is sending us what we need to live and to continue with this dream that is to receive a better preparation to serve Him better. So it's amazing how God was first preparing our hearts as a family for this project, how God showed me what He wanted for me, even when I said no for several years, how God, as you said, used a lot of people to help me to understand what He wanted, and at the same time, how He's providing. And every new experience we have here at AIIAS for the last year, we have been here for a year and a couple of months, confirm that God is leading us and God is with us.
He gives you enough for the moment.
Yes, and actually more than for the moment,
More
but
than
he's amazing. He's
yeah,
amazing.
That's wonderful. So Gabi, at AIIAS we are preparing leaders. And you came out of already being in a leadership position. So how are you experiencing the development of your leadership talents here at AIIAS?
Well, first, it's interesting to find when you come here that you're surrounded by people who were leaders in their places.
Yes.
So not all of them, because some of them just finish college or something and come here, but there are a lot of people here with a lot of experience in leadership. So I think one of the wonderful things about AIIAS is that you can nurture not only from your teachers or administrators, but also from your classmates who have experience, who know what it is to be leaders. And they are learning, as we all are, because you never stop learning. But at the same time, they are feeding. And it's like we are feeding each other and we are helping each other, contributing to growing our leadership with so many experiences that sometimes you think about the institution and you say, okay, how many professors you have, how many faculties? Okay, this is the people that is not going to nurture you. But at AIIAS, you have to add to the faculties and staff members, you have to add your classmates. You have to add the students because they have experience and very rich experience. And that's amazing. That nurtures your leadership a lot. I think that's one point. The second is not the same to be leader in, for example, in my case, coming from a Western culture, than to be leader in other places. I had the chance to be missionary in Central America, in Mexico, that's part of North America, in Europe, but never in Asia or Africa. And I'm now learning so many things about those cultures that I never had any idea about it. And I believe that learning how to relate better with people from other cultures helped me to develop my leadership skills. And the other thing that I think it's very important, I believe in order to be a leader, you have to know yourself and you have to face many things about yourself in order to be ready to lead others. Mm-hmm. And after a life in the church, because God gave me the chance to be born in an Adventist church, Adventist home, to discover through my classes and my experience here that my experience with God needed several adjustments. It was like, wow, you don't have everything solved. It's not everything in its place as you may think, and you are not where I want you. Mm-hmm. I want more from you. That was God's message to me through several classes, and I'm thinking especially in one class that I believe every student who took that class in this institution experienced something similar, okay, that is ministry and spiritual life. I'm sure that you have heard something about it. And it challenged me in a way that I haven't been challenged in a long time in my spiritual life. It confronted me with myself. And it was like, okay, God has a different plan for my personal spiritual life. And I believe to face those tough moments, because it's not easy, to face that you don't have all the answers, to face that there are several things that you need to let it go, things that you have to give up, and to, especially for people like me, to give up control and to let God be in control. Well, those were things that I had to start facing, and I'm still in the process, and I think it's going to be a long process because I know me, I'm not easy, but I think that God began something very interesting here, that I'm sure is going to be used by Him to bless not only me and my family, but I really hope to bless others through my ministry once I leave this place.
I think one of the beautiful things about AIIAS is that you're not currently pastoring a church. So you're involved in ministry because AIIAS students are involved, but it's kind of a cocoon where you can face these things about yourself in a safe environment with peers that you can talk to. Many times, once you're out there in a leadership position or pastoring, you won't feel like you have anyone to talk to about it. And so that's one of the benefits of facing difficult things in our own need to grow spiritually as God shows those to us. And this is a wonderful place to do that.
Definitely.
And I will tell you that it's a wonderful place to do that as a leader as well. Mm-hmm. So learning to face those things in yourself and then go out and feel safer as you have to face those things in our continual growth. It happens all through our lives, I think, is a real blessing that we get from being at AIIAS.
Yes, it is.
Gabi, we're so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for
too.
sharing your story with us, and may God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you very much.